this year in the playoffs, it seems to be a theme. The teams with the mobile quarterbacks, and not just mobile quarterbacks, but like dual threat running quarterbacks are making it the farthest. The Eagles, the Chiefs, the Bills, the Ravens, the Commanders. What do you see as the main advantage that these dual threat quarterbacks give a team?
First of all, it's the new trend, Iggy.
Yes.
It's the new trend.
It certainly is.
Certainly the 2 Super Bowl teams do that. Actually, you pointed it out to me, so I want to give you the credit. It used to be that Bill Walsh would have 2 running backs in the backfield. If you have
ball carriers.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, if you have a running quarterback, usually there's just 1 running back. Now there's 2.
Yeah.
Now there's 2.
Yeah.
And that's a big deal.
Like, why is Saquon Barkley having the best season of his career? Yes, the Eagles are a good organization. Their offensive line is great. But playing next to Jalen Hurts gives the opposing defense 2 running backs to stop, and they can't just focus all their attention on Barkley like they could when he was in New York.
Same goes for the Ravens.
Absolutely. Yes. So it's like back in the 80s, you had these 2-back offenses, but now the Niners fullback is Kyle Juszczyk, who's kind of more of a tight end than a running back, considering he catches passes and blocks, but he almost never hand him the ball. So it's everyone's 100% focused on Christian McCaffrey. But if you could pair him with someone else who could also run 5 to 10 times a game and score touchdowns, I guess that's what they were going for with Trey Lance, and it didn't work out. It seems like a running team becomes so much more tough to stop.
Right. And the bind that the 49ers are in is that Brock Purdy is a very good quarterback.
Yes.
And they're clearly committed to him. And I'm not quarreling with that. I would be happy to have him too. And he's a good scrambler, but he's not a running quarterback.
And it's the same bind that the Vikings are in with Darnold. The Lions are in with Goff. It's like, man, these guys are really good quarterbacks in the pocket, traditional quarterbacks. I mean, they could win 13, 14 games in a season. But if they have that one day where they're just off and they're throwing the ball to the other team, they just don't have it that day, and you want to take the game out of their hands and run the ball, well, now he has nothing to contribute to the game. Whereas if Lamar Jackson or Jalen Hurts or Josh Allen are just erratic that day, nervous, throwing the ball to the other team, you can say, you know what? We're going to run the ball. You're going to run the ball, and you're going to not lose it with your arm. And you could still win that way. It gives you more ways to win games, which is why the Eagles win so many games.
Stafford is another quarterback. It doesn't help you that way.
Yes. And he's great.
He's great. But
yeah.
I would like to bring in something 49er-ish. If Steve Young were a young man now and in the league, he'd be the best quarterback in the league. He might be the best quarterback who ever lived.
Yes.
Because he would be your running quarterback. And Steve, I used to see him, he would, take his pants off, and he had legs like a foot, the thighs. I mean, he was really built on the bottom end, and he would be Lamar Jackson plus.
Yeah, he used to say he was built to take a beating. He was literally built like a running back and ran like a running back. Can you imagine if prime Steve Young were on the Eagles running the exact same system and offense that Jalen Hurts is running?
They would be the best team for years.
They would never lose. He would complete like 80% of his passes and run for 15 touchdowns. It would be incredible. And he adapted to the West Coast offense, but it seems like the NFL has adapted much more to running quarterbacks now than they did 30 years ago.
They caught up with Steve.
Also, it seems like the running quarterbacks are better passers than they were 20, 30 years ago. Like Jalen Hurts isn't a great passer, but he completes 2/3 of his passes and doesn't throw a lot of picks. That's good enough.
It's good enough for that team. I believe Purdy is a better passer than he is. I used to be down on Lamar Jackson because I felt he was an imprecise passer. I take it back. He's really, really good, Iggy, and he's upped his game.
I say it's good enough if you're capable of rushing for 600 yards and 10 touchdowns a season as well. If you're Brock Purdy, it's not good enough. Brock Purdy needs to be elite passer. He needs to be throwing 30 touchdown passes a season and completing 70% of his throws, especially when he gets this contract that gives him $55 million a year, because that's his one way he can affect games.
Right.
Same with Justin Herbert.
He's another one like that. Yeah.
And I think it was
So
interesting to see these pocket quarterbacks melt down one after another in the playoffs.
in the playoffs. So in an ideal world, if you were a general manager of an NFL team, would you be looking for a quarterback who could really run?
I think so. I think every team should have that player, that project on their roster. Look at the Packers. They signed Jordan Love to a big money contract. He's a traditional quarterback who's kind of mobile, but then they went and got Malik Willis too as a backup, who's a definite dual threat quarterback, and that's a nice project for them to have. It's a good. Love went down, missed 2 games, and Willis was great. He won 2 games for them. And I feel like as long as that's what college is producing, why not embrace it?
I agree. And we talk about what would Bill Walsh do. Of course, I can't talk to him, but he was always ahead of the curve. And I think if he saw what was happening with these sort of running, well, that's why he got Steve Young in the first place. If he saw what was happening now, I think he would embrace it.